I chain smoke and I say fuck a lot. But I accept myself for the way I am. I accept you too. Viewer discretion advised. From crazydaysandnights.net, Friday, August 17th, 2018, 4 for Friday. The sequel, why didn't he make it? One simple reason. He put his foot down and said he would call a press conference to tell the world what the producers were doing with the kids they were auditioning for no good reason, because the script didn't actually call for any kids to be in the movie. Oh, sure. They invented a couple background walk-on type roles for the kids to appear in to make sure the parents were assured. Yeah, sorry you didn't know where your son was all day, but hey, good news. He gets to be in the movie now. This actor, who has probably never eclipsed B+ list, was portrayed as a troublemaker for spreading the truth. He was effectively blacklisted by any and all people who were friends with the producers, which was 75% of Hollywood. There was a group, though, who were not friends, and they have kept the actor at least earning enough to make a living. I can't even watch the film any longer because of what I know was happening on the set. The actor said the multiple bedrooms used in the scenes in the movie would often smell of cigars and booze, because that is often where the producers would take the boys after their, quote, tour of the set. Our actor also says that every other actor on that film set knew what was going on, but they valued their careers more than the horrors taking place. Only one other person on set was willing to sacrifice their career, and this foreign-born actress did. When she walked out, she basically didn't work again for almost 2 decades. And as for the clues, we got number 1, it's a sequel. Number 2, there's no kids except for in the background. Number 3, B+ actor who is blacklisted but still able to make a living. Number 4, multiple bedrooms / producers. And number 5, a foreign-born actress who didn't work for almost 20 years after the movie. Number 1, a sequel. And Back to the Future is a trilogy. Number 2, no kids except for background and walk-on roles. Like the Scooter Kids.
Whoa, kid, stop. Hey. Boy. I'll get it back to you, all right?
Wow, look at...
Thanks a lot, kid.
This is something that happens in all 3 Back to the Futures.
It is Wild Gunman.
How do you play this thing?
I'll show you, kid. I'm a crack shot at this.
Elijah Wood's shocking allegations against the entertainment industry. In a new interview with the Sunday Times, the former child star alleges that pedophilia has been a real issue in Hollywood. He tells the publication, quote, "There are a lot of vipers in this industry, people who only have their own interests in mind. What bums me about these situations is that the victims can't speak as loudly as the people in power. That's the tragedy of attempting to reveal what is happening to innocent people. They can be squashed, but their lives have been irreparably damaged." The 35-year-old adds, "If you're innocent, you have very little knowledge of the world and you want to succeed. People with parasitic interests will see you as their prey."
I can get a good career doing this. You know, it's gonna be good.
Wood says he was not a victim of abuse because his mother Deborah protected him and he avoided those kinds of situations. He goes on to allege that even as an adult in the industry, he has been, quote, "led down dark paths to realize that these things probably are still happening."
It means your future hasn't been written yet. No one's has.
Did you spot it? Check out Daniel Evans, who plays Vern, motion to someone off camera and start pointing at his junk. He probably just had to pee, but still, it's a wonder this shot made it through editing.
Number 3, B+ actor who was blacklisted but still able to make a living.
Back to the Future, you know, it was actually to me in some of the things that I'm talking about in terms of propaganda. I know it's a very beloved film. But I was only in the first film. There was
Right, yeah.
they had taken the molds of my face from the old age makeup from the original film and put another actor into prosthetics that were made from my face, and then interspliced a very small amount of footage of me from the original film in order to fool audiences into believing that I was in the movie. Because of my lawsuit, there are rules in the Screen Actors Guild that make it so producers can never do something like that again. I'm proud of the lawsuit, but the reason I bring it up is because the reason that I didn't end up being in the film, it's more complex than this, but I was asking questions that the producer's director didn't like.
And there's also Crispin Glover's essay, What Is It? Most of us know about this by now already. It was in 2003. It's very long, but I am going to paraphrase it. December 19th, 2003. What Is It? An essay concerning the subtext of the film by the same title, by Crispin Glover. In Civilization and its Discontents, did Sigmund Freud define a neurotic as an individual holding thoughts that clash with those held by the prevailing culture? An individual who subverts those clashing thoughts to the subconscious that later manifests in the form of anxiety and unnecessary behavior? If this is so, what does one consider a culture whose prevailing ideas express hypocrisy, sham, and double standard? Does this somehow define a neurotic culture? Does Steven Spielberg hold the same values I wish upon myself? Does the mind of this grinning, bespectacled, baseball-capped man entirely reflect this culture? Is it true that in his waning years, Orson Welles asked Steven Spielberg for a small amount of money with which he can make a final film? Is it true Steven Spielberg refused? Is it true that Steven Spielberg bought a sled used in Citizen Kane for an extremely large sum of money? Do Steven Spielberg's passions burn? Do passions burn in the man now imprisoned who wished to anally rape Steven Spielberg? Do our cultural mouthpieces confidently inform us that the wish to anally rape Steven Spielberg is a bad thought? Could anal rape of Steven Spielberg be simply the manifestation of a cultural mandate? Do you believe Steven Spielberg is an ideal guide and influence for our culture? Do Steven Spielberg's films question our culture? What does Steven Spielberg's films question? Does Steven Spielberg focus much of his fantasy life on young people? Did he portray children wallowing in sewers filled with fecal matter in Schindler's List? Did he use children to finger paint an adult in Hook? Does he collect the illustrations of Norman Rockwell, such as the one showing a young boy in his underwear examined by a doctor? Are the inclinations of Steven Spielberg above suspicion by the media-fed culture? Was Steven Spielberg very friendly with Michael Jackson? Wasn't Michael Jackson supposed to play Peter Pan in Steven Spielberg's version of the story? Now that Michael Jackson is no longer held in favor by the mass media, does Spielberg associate with him? Do Michael Jackson and Steven Spielberg share similar opinions about the sexuality of young boys? Would the cultural mainstream ever silence or suppress Steven Spielberg? Has the United States government given the immensely wealthy Steven Spielberg millions of dollars to fund a media project that reflects his religious heritage and his cultural beliefs? Does the Talmud speak of superiority of the Jews and the inferiority of other cultures and beliefs? Does Steven Spielberg reflect this religious imperative? Is Steven Spielberg neurotic? Is his belief hidden and suppressed? Is it considered career suicide to question Steven Spielberg if one is involved in the entertainment business? If one is not involved in the entertainment business, is it considered a social suicide to question Steven Spielberg? When Steven Spielberg clutched his Academy Award for Schindler's List, saying it's for the 6 million, was he speaking of quantity of people killed or the quantity of dollars poured into his bank account? Did Steven Spielberg truly help the culture understand Stanley Kubrick's ideas at an Academy Awards eulogy? Or did he accuse Kubrick's film of being, quote, hopeful, to make them seem as if they sell the same ideas as Steven Spielberg's movies? Was A Clockwork Orange about hope? Was Barry Lyndon about hope? Was Dr. Strangelove about hope? Was Alita about hope? Was Full Metal Jacket about? Are the ice sheets of the Arctic and Antarctic melting and shearing off? Could negative population growth possibly help solve this problem? Isn't one child per two people negative population growth? Would Steven Spielberg ever support the idea of negative population growth within the medium? Have the goals of Freemasonry as encapsulated by the back half of the dollar bill succeeded? Did DreamWorks, the mega-corporate entity co-owned by Steven Spielberg and David Geffen, consider paving over the last remaining wetland in Southern California to create a studio? Does Steven Spielberg feel comfortable emasculating the natural? Is climbing the Alps or is riding the Matterhorn roller coaster in Disneyland more attractive to Steven Spielberg? Is the theme park mentality of our culture, which is made to feel, quote, right and, quote, moral by the propagandizing movies of Steven Spielberg, helping to destroy individual thought processes and emasculate what remains of the earth? Is it possible that the Columbine shootings would have not occurred if Steven Spielberg had never wafted his putrid stench upon our culture? Would the culture benefit from Steven Spielberg's murder? Or would it be lessened by making him a martyr? Or would people then begin to realize their lives had become less banal and more interesting due to his departure? Because I think it's possible a beautiful piece of non-lingual music could well be written by an angry victim once Steven Spielberg becomes a corpse. It could be that this angry victim of banal and ruinous propaganda will have written an anthem signaling a new era, a new thought process, a new music, and a new culture that is desperately needed in the coming days and forevermore. The one question lingering before this new utopian culture may very well be, what is it? Number 4. Multiple bedrooms / producers. In Back to the Future, there were multiple bedrooms. There was Marty McFly's bedroom. There was his mother's bedroom, Lorraine Baines McFly, and also George McFly's bedroom. There was also multiple producers. Robert Zemeckis, the writer, Neil Canton, Bob Gale, Kathleen Kennedy, Frank Marshall, and Steven Spielberg. Number 5. Foreign-born actress who didn't work for roughly 20 years. Claudia Wells, who played Jennifer in Back to the Future, born in Kuala Lumpur. She did not work from 1986 to 2008. Roughly 22 years.
1.21 gigawatts! 1.21 gigawatts! Great God!
Fucking stoned.